I'm back, ready for round 2 of our rant on classic live albums. This is Pete Pardo with Sea of Tranquility. In part 1, we took a look at, I don't know, 30 or so of some of my favorite live albums, and obviously the list was getting so lengthy that I decided to do this in 2 episodes. So I've got an even larger batch here, and I just got to the point where I know there's probably some that I'm forgetting here, probably some obscure stuff that are tucked away in the closet or something like that. But anyway, here, hopefully here I'm going to cover a lot of the really cool ones that you've been waiting for that you didn't see in the first volume of this. And again, as you probably kind of noticed a little bit, we're kind of going alphabetical here. So now we're going to be starting off, I believe, at K and kind of going all the way through Z. So let's get started. So one I do wanted to mention here, and I even put a little comment in the feedback portion of the first video that I kind of overlooked this one. Kind of, but not. So Blue Oyster Cult, I mentioned On Your Feet, On Your Knees, and Extraterrestrial Live, and I mentioned those are the 2 most notable. Well, there's one that kind of came out in between that I don't like as much as the other 2, but however, I know a ton of people love this album, so I wanted to give it a little love here. I'm talking about Some Enchanted Evening by Blue Oyster Cult. We got some crazy glare, but that's the cover. You know this one well. This is the deluxe edition, the Legacy edition, which came with some additional tracks and a DVD live concert, which is kind of cool. So, you know, some great tunes on here, obviously. You got ETI and Astronomy, a really good live version of Astronomy. Kick Out the Jams, Godzilla, Don't Fear the Reaper. We got to Get Out of This Place, as well as some, you know, obviously some bonus material. So we got ME 262, Harvester of Eyes. Oh, what else we got? Hot Rails to Hell, a bunch of other things. So, again, with this deluxe edition, a live album made better. I still like the other 2 better, but a good one nonetheless. All right, this is my favorite live release from this guitar player, one of my favorite guitar players of all time, who's sadly no longer with us. He's got a couple really good live albums out, but I always like this one the best. I'm talking about We Want More from Gary Moore. Okay. This came out, oh geez, what was this, 85, 86, something like that, right around mid-80s. You got Murder in the Sky, Shapes of Things, Victims of the Future, Cold Hearted, End of the World, Back on the Street, So Far Away, Empty Rooms, Don't Take Me for a Loser, Rockin' and Rollin' with Parisian Walkways as a bonus track. This is blistering Gary Moore on guitar. It was a red-hot band that he had at the time, and just a really great performance. All these songs just totally kick-ass live here. Man, you know, you think about what a loss. And, you know, every time I listen to this album or any of that era of Gary Moore, it just kind of, I feel it right there because I just miss the guy every day. I think out of all the rock stars and musicians that we've lost over the last, like, decade and a half, I think the 2 that still hit me the hardest is Gary and Ronnie James Dio. It's not a day goes by that I don't just miss those guys terribly, you know. Anyway, on to more live albums, shall we? So this one, I actually got this not that long ago, within the last 5 years or so. This is Mott the Hoople Live, the 30th Anniversary Edition. The regular album was a landmark live album, but this one's got extra stuff on it. So we've got 1 disc live from Broadway and another disc CD2 live from the Hammersmith. This was they were both recorded in 1974, I believe. Really, really good stuff. Good bands. I prefer all the live versions on here than I do to any of the studio stuff. But this is a really good live album. A little more hard rockin' vein for Mott the Hoople on here. Well worth seeking out if you really don't have a lot of experience with Mott the Hoople, but of course heard of them. What to get? Get that instead of getting the greatest hits. All right, over to the Southern Rock Camp. Double Trouble Live from Molly Hatchet. Raucous. Triple guitar army, Southern rock. I always liked this. I had this on LP back in the day, back in the mid-'80s. You know, Whiskey Man, Bounty Hunter, Gator Country, Flirting with Disaster, Satisfied Man, Bloody Reunion, Boogie No More. They do a rendition of Freebird as well as Dreams, both we got one Skinner tune, one Allman Brothers tune, Edge of Sundown, Fall of the Peacemakers, and Beating the Odds. Really, really cool live album. One of my favorite Southern rock live albums. I got a couple of them. You're going to hear some of them about them today. This is a classic. Total classic, all right? Some people forget this is a live album, but Kick Out the Jams from the MC5. 1968. It's pretty rowdy stuff for 68. probably the first ever punk band. You can call this proto-punk. It's pretty rockin', pretty raunchy. Just kind of cool stuff that was ahead of their time. Band kind of fizzled out fairly quickly, but I think the influence of this album on hard rock and heavy metal and punk certainly cannot be denied. It's a legendary album. All right, we mentioned Southern Rock a minute ago. Let's see, we got, this is a great one. This is actually a more recent album from recordings from the 70s. It's the Marshall Tucker Band. It's called Stompin' Room Only. These are recordings from, I believe, 74 through 76, which, of course, was the big years for the Marshall Tucker Band. They were one of the more popular Southern rock bands on the circuit. Got some great tunes on here. Tons of Toy Caldwell cranking lead guitar. So what do we got here? Long Hard Ride, This Old Cowboy, Fire on the Mountain, Searching for a Rainbow, Take the Highway, Can't You See? Big hit for them. Blue Ridge Mountain Sky, The Thrill Is Gone, Ramblin', 24 Hours at a Time, and Hillbilly Band. If you like kind of a mix of, it's Southern rock obviously, but they were a little more on the country side of things, but mixed with a lot of rock and boogie, a little bit of bluegrass. Really, really, really good band. All right. It looks like we're in the M's here, right? So this is a favorite live album of mine for a long, long time. I just love this guitar player to death, and this is just an incredible live album. Frank Marino, Mahogany Rush, live. Doesn't get much better than this, folks. If you love his style of guitar playing, he's got that kind of Hendrixy Marino thing, but a little heavier, obviously. This is ripping. What do we got here? Dragonfly, I'm a King Bee, A New Rock and Roll, Johnny Be Good, Purple Haze, all sorts of great stuff on here. Just killer guitar work. Killer guitar work. There's this whole story of back around that time where Nugent challenged Frank Marino to a guitar duel, and after Marino got up and played, Nugent was kind of like, "Whoa, maybe not." I don't know how much that story is true or whether I'm telling it correctly, but and no disrespect to Ted Nugent, love him as a player, but man, Marino was and is the shit, folks. All right, Marillion. Classic second wave of British progressive rock, The Thieving Magpie. A great live album. Love that cover. It's just a great piece of art there. This was basically the last bit of business for the Fish era of the band before he left to go solo and Steve Hogarth came in. So here you've got a bunch of great tunes, 2 discs from their 1, 2, 3, 4 first albums. You got Misplaced Childhood stuff, Script for a Jester's Tear, Clutching at Straws, Forgotten Sons, all sorts of great stuff. A great live album, Fish in his prime. Dig that a lot. All right, back to Southern rock again. Actually, we're going back to L now. We're kind of popping all over the place here. So, Lynyrd Skynyrd, One More from the Road. Yeah, you all know about this one. Classic Skynyrd live album. 2 disc set here. This is the deluxe though, so it's got a bunch of extra tracks. I Ain't the One, Saturday Night Special, Searchin', Traveling Man, Simple Man, Whiskey Rock-a-Roller, Needle in the Spoon, Give Me Back My Bullets, Tuesday's Gone, Give Me 3 Steps, Call Me the Breeze, T for Texas, Sweet Home Alabama, Crossroads, Freebird, and then you got some additional stuff from another show, previously unreleased. It's a great live set, made even better with some extra bonus tracks. So, yeah, before the tragedy set in with Skynyrd. All right, I was kind of classified these guys sort of as Southern rock. They're from Colorado, obviously, so they don't really qualify, I guess, but their music is kind of in that vein. I'm talking about Little Feat, Waiting for Columbus, another one of those heralded greatest live albums from the 70s. There's a reason for it. Just real good, feel-good, summertime, jammy, funky, sort of Southern rocky type of music. Really cool guitar work and keyboards and slide guitar, and just great vocals. It's just kind of funky, just jammy, feel-good type of music. And just terrific performances by the band. There's a reason why it's been looked at so highly over the years. It deserves all the credit it gets. All right, the mighty Led Zeppelin's up next, so I kind of didn't want to just choose one or the other, so I'm picking both of these. Of course, we got The Song Remains the Same, which is the soundtrack to the motion picture, the live concert film. Some people shit on it. Some people love it to death. I love it to death. I think it's really good. Are these the best performances ever by Led Zeppelin? Probably not, but still, as a live album and as a film, I think it's just great. It's got some of, I mean, let's just face it, it's got the best version of Since I've Been Loving You, hands down. No Quarter is great on here. You got a monolithic Dazed and Confused. You know, some of the tunes are, you know, Rock and Roll, if I never heard that song again, no big deal. Performed okay here. Celebration Day is great on here. Black Dog is pretty cool. And then, of course, this has got all the additional tracks on here. Moby Dick is cool. Heartbreaker, you know, Stairway to Heaven. Very, very solid. I'll give it that. This is perhaps much better, though. How the West Was Won. Okay, which came out many, many years later. If you know of it, you have it. You know what I'm talking about. Just cranking stuff. 3 discs, covers a wealth of material. What do we got here? Immigrant Song, Heartbreaker, Black Dog, Over the Hills and Far Away, Since I've Been Loving You, Stairway to Heaven, Going to California, That's the Way, Brown Wire Stomp, Dazed and Confused, What Is and What Should Never Be, Dancing Days, Moby Dick, Whole Lot of Love, all 23 minutes of it, Rock and Roll, The Ocean, and Bring It On Home. The version of Bring It On Home on here is absolutely killer. It's almost 9 minutes. It's actually almost 10 minutes long. Well worth it. Well worth it. That is, in my mind, that is the classic Zeppelin live album. No disrespect to the other one, because that's quite good too. But How the West Was Won, that's it. All right, so these two here, of course, they're classified as live albums, but most people you talk to are either curious about their legitimacy, or depending on who you talk to that was either in the band at the time, or, you know, Eddie Kramer, the producer, claims that the majority of both of these live albums were recorded in the studio or touched up in the studio. You know, whatever. But I have watched the bootleg videotapes of the Cobo Hall shows, especially for Kiss Alive, and yeah, did they doctor them up a bit? Yes, but the essence of the recordings are intact. So to me, these are live albums. Yeah, they've been doctored. A lot of these that we're going to talk about coming up were doctored in the studio. That's just what they did back in the day, because they wanted the best possible live recording presented to the fans, right? Because let's say if that wasn't the case, if they released some of these live albums, warts and all, how many people would be like, oh, that sounds like shit. Oh, that guitar, that couple bum notes there. Oh, singer's off key, you know. So you can't please everybody. So either you have something that sounds totally perfect but may not be truly 100% live, or you have something that's 100% live that's got a lot of mistakes, and people are going to be like, oh, is that how they sound live? So you can't win, folks. Anyway, but these are great albums nonetheless. So Kiss Alive, this is my first ever Kiss album. This is the album, folks, that got me into heavy music way back when I was a young 10-year-old. A great live album. And I'll go on record as saying I like all these versions of these songs better than other studio counterparts. It's that simple. You know what's on here. Douche, Strutter, Got to Choose, Hotter Than Hell, Firehouse, Nothing to Lose, Come On and Love Me, Parasite, She, Watching You, my favorite Kiss song of all time, 100,000 Years, Black Diamond, Rock Bottom, Cold Gin, Rock and Roll All Night, and Let Me Go, Rock and Roll. I mean, if that isn't the best set list ever by any band, I don't know what is. Classic from top to bottom. So this is what put Kiss on the map in a big way. They followed up a couple years later with, of course, Kiss Alive 2. Not nearly as strong in my opinion, but still a lot of fun. You can tell, I mean, here's where you can kind of tell there's stuff going on, that they were re-recording, filling in crowd noises and all that, but nobody gave a shit, right? Because Kiss was huge by this time. So, you know, you got on here, what do we got here? Detroit Rock City, King of the Nighttime World, Ladies Room, Love Gun, Callin' Dr. Love, Christine 16, you know, I mean, Shock Me, and then you got a bunch of studio tunes, extra studio tunes, which, you know, were kind of hit and miss. But, you know, again, a good collection of Kiss classics from the albums that were released after the Alive album. So, again, if you got, you know, honestly, I mean, let's just face it. If you really don't want to get all those early Kiss albums and you just want, like, the best material from them, you got them right here. So from the first Kiss album all the way through to, what is it, Love Gun, you basically got all the good stuff is right on here for the most part. So, you know, both great, indispensable to me as a youngster getting into heavy music back in the day, and I still love them both. Another album that I was really into back when I was younger, probably a few years after that, obviously. I think this came out in 1980, if I'm not mistaken, or right around that time, is The Kinks. Okay? One more from the road, right? One for the road. This is cranking Kinks with most of their best stuff. You know, they talk a lot about who was the first person who invented like what we later knew as like heavy metal guitar, right? You know, distorted guitar riffs. And a lot of people argue that it was Dave Davies from the Kinks. Well, let me tell you something. He's cranking up a storm on here. This is a riff-o-rama album with a lot of their most endearing tunes performed live with a lot of energy. This is a band, you know, right around 1980, they had been around for what, 15 years or so already. And, you know, a lot of their best stuff is on here. Catch Me Now, I'm Falling, Where Have All the Good Times Gone, Lola, Pressure, All Day and All the Night, 20th Century Man, Misfits. What else we got here? Low Budget, National Health, Till the End of the Day, Celluloid Heroes, You Really Got Me, Victoria. I mean, it's top to bottom. Great, energetic live set. Highly recommend that one. All right, Prague, Legends, King Crimson. I had so many to choose from here. There's like literally so many live King Crimson albums. And there's like some box, there's a couple box sets, you know, like 4 or 5 CD collections that, for my money, are probably the best live King Crimson recordings. But rather than go through sifting through all that stuff, I grabbed this one off the shelf because I like this one a lot. It represents that era of the band that I love so much. Of course, it's USA. This is, of course, the Fripp, Wetton, Bruford, Cross version of the band. So you got some, you got Lark's Tongues and Aspic and Lament and, Easy Money, 21st Century Schizoid, man, Fracture, Starless, Exiles. Can't beat it. Maybe not the greatest recording in the world, but it's that magical lineup of the band and it just rules, plain and simple. Okay, sticking on K. Okay, sticking on K. Sorry. I love this album. One of my favorite live albums of all time. The remaster added some extra tracks, thankfully, because this always should have been like a fully stocked double album. I'm talking about Kansas, 2 for the Show. Classic live album. Again, one of those bands that made these like super complex, textured, layered albums with all sorts of stuff going on, prog and hard rock and pop, and then they would go out live and they'd perfectly recreate them, right? So here you got, Song for America, Point of No Return, Paradox, Icarus, Portrait He Knew, Carry On Wayward Son, Journey from Maribyrnong, Dust in the Wind, Lonely Wind, Mysteries and Mayhem, excerpt from Lamplight Symphony, The Wall, Magnum Opus, and then, of course, Disc 2, Hopelessly Human, Child of Innocence, Alexis, Cheyenne Anthem, Lonely Street, Miracles Out of Nowhere. I mean, this is another great set list. Drum Solo with the Spider, Closet Chronicles, Down the Road, Sparks of the Tempest, and Bringing It Back. I mean, it's just a great collection of songs from, the early part of Kansas's career. Great seller for them, by the way. But unfortunately, that would be kind of like the end of their run as like, a mega band. They still would have some success for a bunch of years, and still to this day, today they're a big live draw. But as far as them like selling out, huge venues and stadiums and stuff like that, that was kind of like the end of that era. Okay, so another one that the legacy that surrounds it as more of a studio creation than a live album is just follows this one forever. This is Unleashed in the East. The version I have though is called Priest in the East by Judas Priest. The reason why this one's a different version is because it's got some extra tracks to kind of beef up the set list, recorded from the same tour. Classic. All those early Priest songs that you know and love are here. I mean, come on. Victim of Changes is epic on here. Running Wild, Exciter, Sinner, The Ripper, Green Man Alicia, Diamonds and Rust, Tyrant, Genocide. What else? We got some extra stuff on here. Rock Forever, Delivering the Goods, Hellbent for Leather, and Starbreaker. It made this re-release made a live album that was classic, that much better. Probably the first mega heavy metal live album. Okay. Amazing. A top, probably, from many people, a top 5 or top 10 live album of all time. If it's truly live, who knows? It's damn good, though. All right, Journey, Captured. Again, another kind of live album that, you know, kind of, again, you see a pattern with some of these things. Like they live albums are released when a lot of bands are getting ready to take that next step, either with a new lineup or a stylistic musical change or something like that. So here, this kind of saw the exit of, you know, Greg Raleigh from the band and Jonathan Cain coming in. But a great live album nonetheless. Again, having with a lot of their classic tunes from that early Steve Perry era. What do we got? Majestic, Where Were You, Just the Same Way, Line of Fire, Lights, Stay a While, Too Late, Dixie Highway, Feeling That Way, Anytime, Do You Recall, Walks Like a Lady, La Doo Da, Lovin', Touchin', Squeezin', Wheel in the Sky, Any Way You Want It, and a new tune which they released just specifically for this album called The Party's Over, which is a great tune. So again, a really energetic live album, just a Journey have always been a great live band, regardless of what you think of them. Great live band, and this proves it right there. All right, 2 releases from a band that were also a kick-ass live band back in the 70s. Big time. This is the Geils Band from Boston. We got Live Full House and Live Blow Your Face Out. Again, one of those, you know, 2 of those live albums that if you don't want to go and get like all those early Geils Band studio albums, just get these because you got most of the best stuff on there and just rip-roaring, good time rock and roll with a little bit of soul, right? That's the way I always described Geils Band. They would obviously, after they released these albums, they would go on to release, you know, some really popular studio albums in like the early mid-'80s. But here was in the 70s, and they were known for their live performances. So these really, really captured Geils Band live on stage at the time. Really, really good stuff. All right, here's something a little more recent. This is a live album from a progressive metal band that I dig quite a bit. It's got Ray Alder from Fate's Warning on vocals. They're called Redemption. This is Live from the Pit. This came out, I'm going to say about 5-6 years ago, something like that, on the Sensory label. Great, great live set. It's got a DVD as well and a CD. Just a really, really good melodic progressive metal band. Really, really good. If you like Fate's Warning, they're a little different. Longer songs, a little more intricate, a little more epic, but Ray sounds great. And the whole band is just really, really tight. The songs are very, very cool. It's heavy. It's progressive. It's melodic. Dig that quite a bit. All right. Got 2 more stacks to go here as we rampage up on 22 minutes. Okay. I was actually going to grab another live album by this band. They're actually their official live album that came out in the early 80s, which is called Caught in the Act. But I, not long ago, got this, and again, I don't know how official this is, but it's a live album nonetheless. It's from 2 classic recordings from him in the 70s. I'm talking about Styx. It's called The Grand Elusive Crystal Balls. So here you got 2 discs. Both recorded at the Winterland Ballroom in San Francisco. One's, 70? Oh, geez, I don't have my glasses. Mid-70s. So it basically, Crystal Ball Tour, Grand Illusion Tour. Okay? And you got 2 full sets here, or the majority of full sets. Cranking. Really, really good. The band just on fire. You know, Tommy Shaw, new to the group. He brought a lot to the table, and just this is before the band really, really got huge, but their momentum was really, really picking up. Just a really good hard rock and prog live album with 2 separate performances. Actually, there's some couple tracks from an earlier performance as well. So you got 2 full CDs full of content on here. Really, really good. I believe one show they opened up for Bachman Turner Overdrive, and the other show they headlined, which is why the one disc set is kind of short because they were an opening act. But kick ass, really, really kick ass stuff. All right, Steppenwolf live. Again, another one of those great, great live albums that if you don't want to go and pick up a lot of their early studio albums and you want like kick-ass versions of some of their best material, this is the one to get. This came out, I believe, in the mid-70s, 74 actually. You got everything you expect on here. Sookie Sookie, what else? Monsters on here. You got Hey Lordy Mama, Magic Carpet Ride, The Pusher, and Born to Be Wild. Right there, probably the 5 most memorable songs of the band. Here, all kick-ass live. A great, great live album. Investigate that one. Okay, another one of my favorite live albums of all time. This album, another one of those albums that changed my life back in the day. I am talking about Scorpions, the Tokyo Tapes. I mean, you know, this was actually my introduction to Uli John Roth. And just, man, what a guitar player. What a guitar player. You know, my first Scorpions album that I ever got was Blackout. And I loved that. And then I went and got the two, you know, Love Drive and Animal Magnetism. But I was like, oh, they forgot all these other albums. Let me check them out. And I went and bought this. And I was like, holy crap. Totally different than everything that would come after it. You know, the Uli John Roth era was completely different than everything post-Roth. And of course, you know, I also went and got Lonesome Crow at Michael Schenker, and I went and, you know, then Virgin Killer and In Trance and all, you know, all that kind of stuff. But anyway, I mean, this is a fantastic live album. Again, Uli's swan song with the band. So we see this kind of recurring theme here of live albums that kind of close the book on one era, open it up to another. So, you know, after they release this, Uli's gone, forms his own band, and the search is on. You know, they want to get Matthias Jabs. Michael Schenker comes back briefly, leaves UFO. But on this album, you know, All Night Long, Pictured Life, Backstage Queen, Polar Nights, In Trance, Will Burn the Sky, Suspender Love, In Search of the Peace of Mind, Fly to the Rainbow, Epic, He's a Woman, She's a Man, Speedy's Coming, Top of the Bill, Hound Dog, Long Tall Sally, Steam Rock Fever, Dark Lady, Kojo no Tsuki, and of course, finishing off with Robot Man. Guitar lovers rejoice. This is an amazing, amazing guitar album. Heavy rock. Really different than anything else that was going on at the time. All right, another great one from the early 80s. Saxon's The Eagle Has Landed. Okay. It's got Motorcycle Man, 747, Princess of the Night, Strong Arm of the Law, Heavy Metal Thunder, 20,000 Feet, Wheels of Steel, Never Surrender, Fire in the Sky, and of course, Machine Gun. So, you know, it doesn't have denim and leather. It's like the one obvious thing that's missing from that time period, but it doesn't matter. It's a kick-ass live album. This actually also was my introduction to Saxon. Then I had to get everything else. And I forget exactly what year this came out in. I'm going to say this was like, what, 83 or 84? Something like that. Maybe 82. I don't know. Right around that time. Let's see what we got here. We're going to go to Canada for Pop Progger's Saga. Detours. Okay? Great live album. You know, this band very quietly put out a couple of really good selling albums. They had, you know, one big hit, On the Loose. That was probably their one and only hit, but they had a lot of really great tunes. A band that should have been huge worldwide, but, you know, as it turns out, they did a lot of business in Germany, in Europe, and in Japan. But, like, here in this country, for whatever reason, and their music was totally tailored for us, they never really did that well in North America. But they released a slew. They've got a shitload of albums out. Great studio albums. The music is so accessible, but very proggy. A lot of hard rock elements going on as well. This is a 2-disc live album that has basically all the best songs that they had done up till that time. I think this came out in the mid-late 80s. Something like that. Anyway, but a lot of great material on here. Really, really, really good. Again, another one of those albums that, like, I never investigated Saga. What album should I get to? They have a greatest hits. Don't worry about that. Just go out and get this. This will give you a nice cross-selection of a lot of their best material leading up to that point. Okay, 2 albums that kind of go hand in hand for me. And again, I feel like I'm repeating myself here. An artist that had a lot of great tunes. You can go out and get a myriad of different greatest hits collections. He's got 1 million albums, but if you just want, like, his best material, kick-ass live versions of them, Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band, Nine Tonight, and Live Bullet. They go hand in hand. They're both great. Just fantastic songs. You know, all his popular stuff, all the best tunes. Turn the Page, Heavy Music, Catmandu, Let It Rock, you know, Nine Tonight, Main Street, what else? Her Strut, Feels Like a Number, Night Moves, you know, Rock and Roll Never Forgets. I mean, all We've Got Tonight, all his best tunes are on here. And they're just kick-ass live versions of them. And a really good band he had, really good band. So it's all you need. It's all I ever needed for Bob Seger. Glad I got him, though. All right, another band's got a myriad of live albums out, but it's their first 2 official ones that just, you know, slay me, have been for 1 million years, and, you know, you just never get tired of these albums. I'm talking about Canada's Rush. You got All the World's a Stage, right? Which, again, like, ushered in a new wave, a new era for the band. So this covers like their first couple of albums. So you got Rush, you got Caress of Steel, Fly By Night, and 2112. So this is like kind of like the best of those albums. Heavy. You know, for a band that, you know, kind of basically we're kind of a prog band, this is pretty fucking heavy, all right? You got Bastille Day, Anthem, Fly By Night, Something for Nothing, Lakeside Park, 2112 Overture, By Torn the Snow Dog, epic version of that, In the End, Working Man, Finding My Way and What You're Doing, rocking stuff. And then, of course, you got Exit, Stage Left, which came out a few years later. Okay, this is basically at the end of the moving pictures era. Okay, before they move into even more kind of mainstream poppier sounds, right? So here you got The Spirit of Radio, Red Barchetta, YYZ, A Passage to Bangkok, Closer to the Heart, Beneath, Between, Behind, Jacob's Ladder, Rune's Bane, The Trees, Xanadu, Free Will, Tom Sawyer, and La Villa Strangiato, best version of La Villa Strangiato ever, in my opinion. So again, this kind of closes that real progressive and heavy era of the band. Okay, as they move into other things. So again, you see a very similar pattern in a lot of these bands, a lot of these live albums kind of like turn the page to the next thing that's going to happen, the next musical wave, the next era of the band, the next lineup of the band. Here, classic, Get Your Yayas Out by the Rolling Stones. All right, this is legendary. What do you got on here? Jumpin' Jack Flash, Carol, Stray Cat Blues, Love in Vain, Midnight Rambler, Sympathy for the Devil, Live With Me, Little Queenie, Honky Tonk Woman, and Street Fightin' Man. Hello, Mick Taylor. Welcome to the band, right? Great live album. What else? All right, this is a great one. Renaissance, live at Carnegie Hall. A fantastic, sumptuous, delightful, double disc, progressive rock, art rock, whatever you want to call it, album. These guys were kind of magical. They combined like progressive rock and classical and pop like no other band before. Majestic vocals from Annie Haslam, wonderful piano, gorgeous acoustic guitar, really cool like rock bass, drums. You know, we got Prologue on here, Ocean Gypsy, Can You Understand, Carpet of the Sun, Running Hard, a amazing Mother Russia, probably the best version of that ever, almost 29-minute version of Scheherazade, and then of course an epic 22-minute version of Ashes Are Burning. It's just epic all the way. Again, I'll argue that these live versions on this album might be the definitive versions of some of these tracks. Okay, and if they're not, they're damn close to it. A mandatory live album, a mandatory live prog album from the 70s that if you don't have, you need to get. All right, Rainbow on stage. Hello, Ronnie James Dio. You know the story. So Ritchie Blackmore leaves Deep Purple to form Rainbow. He brings with him Ronnie James Dio and the majority of his band. Elf starts a new band. Eventually, you know, Ritchie is famous for changing band members, firing people left and right. So in comes Tony Carey on keyboards and Jimmy Bain on bass. And Cozy Powell on drums, forming, you know, an amazing supergroup in Rainbow. They released the first album, Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow, with the earlier lineup with the Elf guys, and then Rainbow Rising. And then they go on tour. They already have a bunch of songs written for the next album, which was to come Long Live Rock and Roll. But this captures the Rainbow Rising touring lineup. They do play one tune on here called Kill the King, which was to come on the next album, Long Live Rock and Roll. But you got Kill the King, you got a medley featuring Man on the Silver Mountain, Blues, and Starstruck, a wonderful Catch the Rainbow, a killer version of Mistreated, an old Purple classic from his days in Deep Purple, 16th Century Greensleeves, and Still I'm Sad. The latter is a old Yardbirds tune. Really good live album. You just wish it was longer, right? They actually released other live albums years later that had additional tracks that were not included on here. So if you're looking for Stargazer, go out and get the Live in Munich. That's got it. Anyway, another great live album. British Boogie Kingpins, Status Quo, live, classic album. Again, another one of those albums. Status Quo have 1 million records. So, you know, I went and purchased a lot of their albums on CD. They're all fun, but you know what? All those tunes sound better on here. And there's like 2 discs worth, a lot of Status Quo classics. you'll find yourself listening to this more than the studio counterparts because this was a live band. Status Quo were known as being a kick-ass live band. So that's what they did best, and this captures them perfectly in their element. Just good, fun time boogie and hard rock. All right, Pink Floyd, Momentary Lapse of Reason. Yeah, you know, Floyd's got a couple live albums. I don't think Floyd ever really released their definitive live album. For me, I think one of my favorite live recordings from them is the Live in Pompeii, but that's like a movie, right? But if I had to pick one of their various other ones, I think this one's really good. This is from the 80s. You know, it's a little more laid-back Floyd, but it's good. You know, this is David Gilmour and firmly in control of the band. It's got a lot of good tunes, a lot of great guitar work on here. A couple tunes are really noteworthy here. Learning to Fly is great on here. On the Turning Away is really good. What else we got here? A New Machine is great. Terminal Frost. You know, some really good stuff on here. Great Gilmour guitar work. That's a keeper. Pantera Official Live 101 Proof. Kick-ass versions of Pantera classics if you're a fan. Their raucous brand of metal. You know, New Level, Walk, Becoming, 5 Minutes Alone. Right there, that handful kicking off an album, you can't go wrong there. There's a lot of tunes on here, like 16 songs. So, you know, This Love Is Here, I'm Broken, Cowboys from Hell, all their best stuff. All pretty ridiculous versions of them, you know, which is good. So if you like your metal ballsy and in your face, check that one out. Southern Rockers, The Outlaws, Bring It Back Alive. This was one of my favorites when I was a kid. Totally getting into Southern rock back in the early 80s, and this is a scorcher of a live album. Again, what do we got here? Stick Around for Rock and Roll, Lover Boy, There Goes Another Love Song, Freeborn Man, Prisoner, I Hope You Don't Mind, Song for You, Cold and Lonesome Holiday, Hurry Sundown, and of course an epic version of Greengrass and High Tides. This is the three-guitar army going nuts. Blistering guitar solos on here. This is a very fiery and raucous live album by a really underrated band. I always love the Outlaws. Great live album. Okay, going to go over to progressive metal, progressive extreme metal. All right, Opeth, the Roundhouse Tapes. This is a kick-ass live album, boys and girls. Of course, recorded at the Roundhouse. This came out after, you know, this is the Ghost of Perdition era. So this is before the band really just broke away from extreme metal and went straight into progressive rock and classic hard rock. So you got a lot of really great tunes on here from all their albums. But of course, you know, their Opeth's songs are so long. It's not like there's 20 songs on here. You got 2 discs, some really good tunes. I highly recommend it. The sound quality is fantastic. You know, these guys are such a great band and a great live band too. Their attention to all the intricate natures of the music is just so awesome to listen to. A great live album. All right, you guys asked for it in the comments of the first one. When are we going to hear about this one? Well, you're going to hear about it right now. Double Live Gonzo by the Nuge. Yeah, this is classic, right? No 70s live album list would be complete without the Gonzo. Just What the Doctor Ordered, Yank Me, Crank Me, Don't Forget to Spank Me. Gonzo, Baby Please Don't Go, Great White Buffalo, Hibernation, Stormtroopin', great. Stranglehold, the definitive version, perhaps. The studio version kicks ass too. Wang Dang Sweet Putang, Cat Scratch Fever, and of course Motor City Madhouse. Top to bottom, amazing. Ted and Derek, you know, it's just great stuff. Great guitar work. It kicks ass. It's ballsy. Got a ton of attitude. Nectar, live in New York from 1974. Great British progressive rock and hard rock band. Very underrated. You know, now that Roy Earl Brighton is no longer with us, I think that's the end of the band, but they kind of stuck around for a long time. Really good, underrated band. Heavy on the Hammond organ and keyboards and ripping guitar work. Kind of like a more atmospheric and progressive Deep Purple Uriah Heep, in my opinion. Really good band. This has got a lot of their best tunes on here at the time. Astro Man, Remember the Future Part 1, Marvelous Moses, Good Day, Show Me the Way, Day in the Life of the Preacher, Desolation Valley, great tune. Just a really solid live album. Nazareth, Snaz. I was big into this when I was a kid. I remember buying this on LP, double disc set. You know, a great version of Telegram. Razmanaz, I Want to Do Everything for You, This Flight Tonight, Beggar's Day, Hearts Grown Cold, Java Blues, Cocaine, Holiday, Dress to Kill, Hair of the Dog, Expect No Mercy, Shapes of Things, Love Hurts, and Tush, the ZZ Top classic. Really, really good live album. Just these guys, just great hard rock band, underrated hard rock band. Just so consistent, just doing their thing, you know, year after year. Mountain, Twin Peaks, double disc sets, this one right there. Another really cool live album, Leslie Weston Company. Really heavy. A lot of some of their best tunes on here. Just, you know, Mountain, another one of those bands that just underrated, doesn't get enough attention they deserve, doesn't get enough acclaim as being one of the forefathers of like heavy music. Some really good tunes. Of course, you got all their most popular tunes on here. Just really, really good. Tons of great riffs and ripping lead guitar work. Can't have a live album show without this one either, right? No Sleep Till Hammersmith by the mighty Motorhead. Again, another one of those 80s metal live albums. Gotta have it, right? What do you got on here? Ace of Spades, Stay Clean, Metropolis, The Hammer, Iron Horse, No Class. Overkill, of course, We Are the Road Crew, Capricorn, Bomber, Motorhead, and a couple bonus tracks, Over the Top, alternate version of Capricorn, and Train Kept a Rolling. Fast Eddie, Lemmy, Filthy, they're all gone now, but this is a great testament to the greatness that was that version of Motorhead. All right, the last stack. Now we're at 40 minutes. Going to try and blow through this. Okay, 2 from Johnny Winter, Captured Live, which if you can see, I actually met Johnny, got him to sign that bad boy right there. Okay, and then we got Johnny Winter and Live. It's the version, the band with Rick Derringer. Both scorching versions of guitar-heavy blues rock. Mandatory. If you're a guitar player, you don't own these, you need to get them. Okay, Johnny Winter was a national treasure. Another guy we miss a lot. Oh, what do we got here? 2 from Santana, right? We got Lotus and Moonflower. Both mandatory Santana live albums, both pretty different. This earlier in their career, this a little bit later. They were starting to get a little more commercial, but still fantastic, both of them. The early one has just got tons of jamming and psychedelic. You know, their brand is psychedelic Latino rock. And here, you know, you get that a bit, but a little more some of the commercial stuff. But either way, just awesome Carlos Santana guitar work littered around both of these. Great performances from the bands. Just, you know, I love Santana to death. These are great live albums. All right, couple from Frank Zappa. All right, Roxy and Elsewhere. Mandatory. If you don't have it, you need it. There's the man right there. Okay, and then Zappa in New York. You know, I would tell you if you don't already have this to go out and get the Roxy Performances. It's the 7-disc box set that just came out that has all the entirety of all the 4. Is it 4 performances? 4 performances, I believe, or is it 6? I forget, or 5 that happened throughout that weekend at the Roxy. But if you want like kind of like a very good sampling of the best from that whole weekend, this you can't go wrong with this. This is all we had for 40 years, right? So why mess with success? Just great stuff, and this is awesome as well. Of a later band, this is probably the best Zappa band ever, in my opinion. The one that's on this album that appears on this tour is probably right up there, either number 2 or number 3. Just great Zappa weirdness and zaniness, rock and jazz fusion, and all the things that he brought to the table. Okay, Yes songs. I don't think I need to say too much about this, right? A classic live album from the prog genre. Just amazing. Siberian Khatru, Heart of the Sunrise, Perpetual Change, and You and I. What else? Mood for a Day, Roundabout, I've Seen All Good People, Close to the Edge. It's all here, folks. This is, the best version of the band. This is actually right after Bill Bruford left and Alan White came in, but this is the music that's contained here is probably the band's strongest material, right? And a great live album. Just the band were at the top of their game here. What else? Wishbone Ash. Okay, these are phenomenal, must own for anybody. Wishbone Ash live dates and Wishbone Ash live dates 2. What more can I say? A legendary band. Creators of the whole twin guitar thing. You can try and tell me otherwise. I'm not going to believe you. Basically, Thin Lizzy, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden all came in their wake. These guys kind of started it all. Just glorious lead guitar work, great songs, memorable songs that kind of bridge hard rock and folk and blues and bits of jazz and regular rock and pop. And you got a lot of their best tunes from that first part of their career from the 70s here. You know what? As great as Live Dates is, the first one, which is the original version of the band, I almost kind of like this one a little bit better. I don't know why. I just think the performances are a little stronger, but they're both amazing. You can't go wrong with either one of them. Again, another band that, they got a million albums. If you don't want to go get them all, but you want a good kind of cross selection of their best songs, especially from the 70s, get these two. Can't go wrong with either one of them. They're fantastic. All right, Whitesnake, live in the heart of the city. Another cool painting on the front of the guys. This is early in their career. This is from we got recordings here from 1980 and 1978. So you got Come On, Sweet Talker, Walking in the Shadow of the Blues, Fool for Your Lovin', Love Hunter, Ain't Gonna Cry No More, Ready and Willing, Take Me With You, Might Just Take Your Life, Lie Down, Ain't No Love in the Heart of the City. I think I already said that. Yep. Trouble and Mistreated. Awesome. So again, this is Coverdale shortly, a few years after he left Deep Purple and started to make a name for himself with his band Whitesnake. You got Bernie Marsden, Mickey Moody, John Lord, Ian Pace, Neil Murray. Great lineup, great live album. Whitesnake's got a lot of live albums, but this first one is still, I think, is the best. All right, another one that you've probably been wondering and when it's going to come in, where is it? Because it's long considered one of the best live albums of all time. I'd get to it eventually, but it looks like we're kind of going alphabetical today, so that's why it's coming at you a little late. Live at Leeds, folks, The Who. And as great as the original album is, the deluxe edition blows it away because you got all the rest of the songs that were played that night, right? Almost the entirety of Tommy is here. You can't omit that, right? As great, as great as Live at Leeds always was. I remember back in the day when I had the LP, I'm like, man, this is so short. Where's the rest of it? This is not all they played that night, but it's all here, man. Heaven and Hell, Can't Explain, Fortune Teller, Tattoo, Young Man Blues, Substitute, Happy Jack, I'm a Boy, A Quick One, Summertime Blues, Shakin' All Over, My Generation, Magic Bussin', and a million songs. Well, not a million, but a whole bunch of songs from Tommy. It's awesome. Easily one of the best live albums ever. This is The Who at their heaviest, rockin' best, folks. If you don't have it, you need it. Make sure you get this version. Get the double disc set. You got to have it. So good. So good. All right. Light Fuse and Get Away. This, of course, is Widespread Panic. If you're into the whole jam scene, this is just guitar-o-rama. Lengthy tunes, lots of jam, and lots of guitar solos. 2 discs. Got to have it. One of my favorite jam band albums. Quite good. All right. Steve Vai. Alive in an Ultra World. Love this. Probably easily my favorite Steve Vai live album. He's got a bunch of them too. This is from early in his solo career. You got a lot of amazing renditions of some of his classic tunes. Whispering a Prayer is amazing on here. What else we got here? Light of the Moon, Giant Balls of Gold, Burning Rain, Black Forest. A lot of really good stuff. Guitar Extravaganza. Can't beat that. Todd Rundgren, Utopia, another live. Kind of ballsy that in actuality, his first two, and actually I probably should have pulled the first Todd Rundgren Utopia album because that's, for all intents and purposes, that's a live album, right? But anyway, or at least some of it's live. This is an official live album. Their second album is their live album. So, but again, it's mostly filled with new original songs and a couple Todd solo hits. So a really, really good album from a really great band that often is forgotten when people talk about some of the best progressive rock bands, historically speaking. All right, you knew this one coming too, right? Uriah Heep, live from 1973. Classic album. Again, 1973, Heep were riding high. They had a handful of really, really strong selling and popular albums up to that time, and most of their best songs they were playing live, included here. Sunrise, Sweet Lorraine, Traveler in Time, Easy Living, July Morning, Tears in My Eyes, Gypsy, Circle of Hands, Look at Yourself, The Magician's Birthday, Love Machine. Come on. Doesn't get much better than that. Heavy hitters. They still play most of those live to this day. A great live album. Mandatory live album. All right. Winding down, folks. UFO, Strangers in the Night. one of the best hard rock live albums ever. From a band that, again, this signified the end of an era. Schenker on the way out. They released the live album. In comes Paul Chapman. But this perfectly chronicles those glorious Schenker years. When did he join? 74? 74, 75? No, I think it was 74. Something like that. 73, 74, 75. He stayed until, I believe, early 1979, or at least late 1978. This has the best of all the material from those classic studio albums that they released with Schenker, you know, and plus this version, if you get the deluxe, it's got a couple extra tracks. So we got Hot and Ready, Cherry, Let It Roll, Love to Love, Natural Thing, Out in the Street, Only You Can Rock Me, Mother Mary, This Kid's, Doctor Doctor, I'm a Loser, Lights Out, Rock Bottom, Too Hot to Handle, and Shoot Shoot. What they did was they rearranged a track list to perfectly replicate the way they were performing those songs, you know, the numerical order they played them in the set list on that tour that year. Great. Legendary Schenker guitar work on there. Classic. All right, speaking of classic, what's going on live at the Isle of Wight Festival? I'm talking about Rory Gallagher and Taste. This is rip-roaring good stuff, guys. A live performance that put Taste totally on the map, and then they broke up. Again, it's just amazing how often this shit happened back in the day. They played in front of, what, 500,000 people? They tore the place apart, and then that was it. They already knew they were breaking up when they played the gig. You know, and they only released 2 studio albums and this. That's it. So, and they had another live album. But a great, great set of cranking, blistering blues rock with amazing Rory Gallagher guitar work. Of course, he would go on to a very, you know, prolific solo career. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us, but he left behind a large body of work. This is a great, great live album that if you don't have, you need to get. And my stacks here are falling over on the floor. Holy cow. All right, next. We're almost done. The Tubes. What do you want from live? Awesome live album. This stuff is just wacky. The Tubes, you never knew what these guys were going to do. Here you got a full disc with all sorts of crazy stuff from early in their career. This is before the band actually became fairly big and had a couple radio hits. So their old stuff is just kind of weird. It's kind of Zappa-ish a little bit, you know? Just kind of wacky rock music, quirky rock music, kind of theatrical sounding, but really good musicianship, great guitar work and keyboards, cool vocals from Fee Waybill. Just a really good live album. What else? I got 2 here from Mr. Robin Trower. I actually got more. I almost pulled out 4 live albums. I got a bunch from him. But his first live album, just called Live, completely changed my life. That's it right there here. This is a 2-on-1 with For Earth Below. This live album, still to this day, when I put it on, I get chills. This is the album that made me want to play guitar. Way back when. I think I probably got a hold of this LP in like 79 or something like that. 79 or 80. Just don't listen to the phone. It happens when you record from home.
Call from Poughkeepsie, NY.
Exactly. Call from something, something. Anyway, a great live album that just has some of the best songs from early in Trower's career. Okay, again, this kind of came out in the mid 70s, so he had already gotten pretty big. He was playing stadiums. If you can tell by the picture there, he is just playing in front of a lot of people. And you know, you got some great tunes on here: Two Rolling Stone, Daydream, Rock Me Baby, Lady Love, I Can't Wait Much Longer, Alethea, and of course a little bit of Sympathy. Fantastic. Fantastic. Still love it to this day. And then the King Biscuit Flower Hour in concert recording is also really good. And I think this, I think they played this on King Biscuit like in the early 80s, 1980 or something like that. Or was it late 70s? Anyway, a lot of the same tunes, a few different ones. You got Day of the Eagle on here, which I wish was on this one. But again, rip-roaring versions of a lot of those Trower classics. Again, he was untouchable in the 70s as far as I'm concerned. Still, the guy still is amazing today. What is he, 73 years old? Still out there playing, still out there touring, still recording. But again, both of these, really great from one of my favorite guitar players of all time. Triumph Stages, all right? They released this album just as Triumph were really hitting it big out there. You got some great tunes on here. When the Lights Go Down, Never Surrender, Hold On, Magic Power, Rock and Roll Machine, Lay It on the Line, A World of Fantasy. Midsummer's Daydream, Spellbound, Follow Your Heart, Fight the Good Fight, Mind Games, and Empty Inside. So again, this is the mid-'80s, so a lot of the really popular Triumph tracks included on here. Really good live set. All right, so for all of you who are like, when's the Pat Travers album going to get mentioned? Here we go. Go for what you know. All right. Along with the Robin Trower live album, one of the best guitar slinger live albums. You had some great ones in the 70s. You had, Trower, you had Nugent, you had this, Rick Derringer's one, which I forgot. It's up in the stack. That's another one. The Rick Derringer live album is another one. The Frank Marino, all of them coming around right around the same time. All great. This is awesome. Great. This is Travers and Pat Thrall just ripping it up. The late Mars Cowling, who we just lost, on bass, and of course Tommy Aldridge on drums. Hooked on Music, Getting Better, Go All Night, Boom Boom Out Go the Lights, Stevie, Making Magic, Heat in the Street, and It Makes No Difference. Makes a hell of a lot of difference. This is great. Awesome live album. One of the best. One of the best. Trapeze live at the Boat Club, 1975. Glenn Hughes has already gone and joined Deep Purple, but Mel Galley and company continue on. Great live album. Got some of their best tunes from up to that point. Jury's on here. Medusa's on here. Mel Galley took over the vocals from Hughes and didn't sound all that much different from him. Cranking live album. Really, really good. All right, so for a few of you who asked about Thin Lizzy, well, as we wind down here, we've got 3 of them from Thin Lizzy. So, of course, the mandatory one is Live and Dangerous. An amazing live album. Legendary. Again, one of those live albums where there's been lots of whispers about just how much of it was recorded live and how much was doctored up in the studio. Regardless, it's just killer. Jailbreak, Emerald, Southbound, Rosalie, Cowgirl song, Dancing in the Moonlight, Massacre, Still in Love with You, Johnny the Fox meets Jimmy the Weed, Cowboy Song, The Boys Are Back in Town, Don't Believe a Word, A Killer Warrior, Are You Ready, Killer Suicide, Barnstorm and Sha-La-La, Baby Drives Me Crazy, and The Rocker. It's legendary for a reason, but there's more, okay? How about UK Tour 1975? This was released not that long ago. Some more recordings from right around that time period. This is quite good, if not as good. We've got Fighting My Way Back, It's Only Money, Wild One, For Those Who Love to Live, Still in Love with You, Showdown, Suicide, Rosalie, The Rocker, Sha-La-La, Baby Drives Me Crazy, Me and the Boys, Cowboy Song, Little Darlin', and a Sound Check Jam. So a good companion to the Live and Dangerous, and a great recording. In addition, okay, when the band were announcing their farewell tour and going out there and saying goodbye to everybody, getting ready to break up, they then, after that, they released the live Life 2-disc set, which some people don't like. Some like quite a bit. So this is the Thunder and Lightning lineup, but they bring on board for select songs, Gary Moore and Brian Robertson and, drawing a blank on the other guys' names. Hold on. Eric Bell, that's it. Jeez, first guy. So here you got, a bunch of tunes from the Thunder and Lightning era, plus some classics where they get the other guys to come out and jam. I think it's pretty damn solid. I've always liked it. I had this on LP back in the day, so I don't see the issue with it. But some people are just like, it's kind of not as much energy as maybe their earlier live albums. But quite frankly, when you got John Sykes on board, how can you say that there's no energy, right? Maybe Phil's a little less energetic because Phil was not in good shape at the time, but Sykes is cranking on this. So I always dug it. I always liked it. All right, rounding out the final 3. 10 years after, live at the Fillmore East. This is good stuff, folks. Alvin Lee and company. Again, a lot of cool tunes. Love Like a Man, Good Morning Little Schoolgirl, Working on the Road, The Hobbit, 50,000 Miles Beneath My Brain. Yeah. Oobly Doobly Doobly, whatever, I Can't Keep From Crying Sometimes, Extension on One Chord, Help Me, I'm Going Home, Sweet Little 16, Roll Over Beethoven, I Woke Up This Morning, and Spoonful. A lot of great heavy British blues rock on here. Great Alvin Lee guitar work. That is much better than the live album they released in the 70s. Really, really good. Obviously from the same era, but a little earlier. Live at the Rainbow, 1973, the complete concert. Sweet stuff is on here, let me tell you. This is the hard rockin' Sweet. Okay, you know, they just started off as kind of like a bubblegum pop act, but they became a pretty lethal hard rock band. You got Hellraiser on here. What else you got? Rock and Roll Disgrace, Wigwam Bam, Need a Lot of Lovin', Done Me Right, You're Not Wrong for Loving Me, The Man with the Golden Arm, Little Willie, Teenage Rampage, a rock and roll medley. Everybody was doing that those days. And, of course, you got Ballroom Blitz and Blockbuster. Really good, pretty good recording, too. Good stuff. And the final one of the day, from a band that I love to death, a more recent band. This came out sometime in the early 2000s. Forget the exact year. Does it say it here? Whatever. It doesn't really matter. Symphony X, Live on the Edge of Forever. A great, great band. That probably next to Dream Theater, probably the most recognizable, like progressive metal, power metal. Yeah, they're more of a progressive metal band over the last, 15, 20 years. And rightfully so. An amazing group, great singer, great guitar player, great all-around musicianship, killer songs with lots of hooks, great guitar player and keyboard playing. And this has a bunch of their best tunes from up to that point in time, the earlier part of their career. Just a really, really strong live album from a band that would go on to get even bigger as the years go on. Now, they're a pretty big draw right now. We haven't seen an album from them in a couple of years. Wonder what's going on in the Symphony X camp. Anyway, that's it, guys. We're at an hour. Holy crap. So we had nearly 2 hours of live albums. And like I said, there's a bunch that I didn't get to. I've got 10,000 CDs, so it's like, we could have done like 4 hours of this, just talk about all the live albums. So I didn't get to some. I didn't mention Neil Young's Rust Never Sleeps, or Live Rust, I should say. Wings Over America. Holy cow! How did I forget that? That's one of my favorites of all time. Where is that? Don't go away. There's no way I cannot show that, because that is one of my all-time favorites, folks. Wings Over America. I'm going to finish it out with that. Just a fantastic, fantastic, fantastic album. One of my next to, actually, I got into these guys before Kiss, so this was my first favorite live album. Awesome stuff. With all the mandatory Wings songs, because they did that big tour of America, right? All the mandatory Wings songs, plus a bunch of Beatles classics. You just can't go wrong with it. It's just amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Wings were such a huge band at the time, and I love them to death. I still do. So great one. So that's it, okay? That's it. No more live albums. Hope you enjoyed this extended version of our Rant series. Obviously, I love live albums. Hope you do too. And there's a reason why we love them, because most of them are great. Or at least, yeah, most of them. Anyway, visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on the mighty YouTube. We got lots of great stuff coming up in the days and weeks ahead. So stay tuned. Take care. Thanks for joining. Make sure you subscribe and tell your friends. We'll see you next time.